Hello, and welcome to the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm your host, Mike Boland, and I'm a congenital amputee of the right hand. In this show, I will interview other amputees and allow them to tell you their incredible life stories. I'll also feature family members of amputees and others who support the amputee community, all in an effort to discuss the challenges and triumphs of those living with limb loss. So stick around and listen to inspirational stories and find out why we say, We're Not Stumped. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm your host, Mike Boland, and today, like I've done in the past, I'm going it alone. I'm going to do it single-handedly, as they say. As they say if you have one hand, right? In celebration of what this is the 40th episode of the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm going to do a little show and tell. There's some things recently that I found that are very significant in my life that I want to share with everyone. So since it is show and tell, I urge everyone that is listening, I'll do the best I can to describe what I'm going to be showing everyone. I have a collection of things right here. But if you get the chance, please go onto my YouTube channel. It's official Mike Boland. I will have this video on there, and you're going to see everything I'm going to show you. And I think it's pretty interesting. Some of it definitely directly ties in to the We're Not Stumped podcast and what we talk about and what our topics generally are. Some don't, and I'm going to give you a little cliffhanger here. At the end, towards the end, the very last thing I'm going to be talking about and showing are two items that I've kept from the trial of Billy Jack. For those that don't know, I played the part of Danny in the trial of Billy Jack, and I know Billy Jack is a very, very big cult film. There's a lot of fans of that, of all the films, of all the series. Certainly Born Losers and Billy Jack. Like I said, I was in the trial of Billy Jack, and I have a couple things that I want to show you that I think you'd find very interesting from that time. I'll show you towards the end, like I said, on today's episode. So stay on, please. And I want to thank all those people, too, that have reached out to me. I mean, the fans of Billy Jack and that franchise have been always very kind to me. You know, they reach out on Facebook, and I get to answer some of their questions from what I know and what I can remember, because I was a lot younger at that time. But certainly thank you to them, as always. And since this is the 40th episode, and I am going it alone, I also want to thank everyone who has been on the podcast up to this point. When I started this podcast, I wasn't sure what I was going to be getting into, but I just knew that I wanted to help amplify the voices of the limb loss and the limb difference community. And hopefully that's what I'm doing. So even before I get into some of those stories, let me urge you, the listener, to reach out to me. If you have a story, someone in your family, if you have a story you want to share on the We're Not Stumped podcast, please come on. I'd love to have you on here. The way I run my podcast is I'm the host, as the exception for today. I generally don't speak. I like to ask questions. I like to learn. I like to hear other people's journeys. I really believe that these journeys that you share, that have been shared on the We're Not Stumped podcast, go a long way to helping others. So thank you to all the guests. Certainly thank you to all the listeners. And one other thing, we have a private Facebook group. We're Not Stumped is for the guests of the We're Not Stumped podcast, but also friends and family. It's a private group. People within the limb loss community, even if you've never been on an episode, but you were part of the limb loss community, hit me up, join it. We're Not Stumped Facebook group. And if you need to email me, mike@mikeboland.com. So there's some contact information. Okay, so let's get into it. I kind of start, maybe a little grim. My mom passed away suddenly in 2016, August 5th of 2016. And with that, unfortunately, my dad wasn't able to continue staying in the house that they had built in 1972 when we moved out here from New Jersey. So we had to move him out to make sure that he was going to, really for his own safety. So what we did, I have a brother, a younger brother, and an older sister, and all of our families. We got together in the house, and we knew we had to divide and conquer and start packing things up and start looking to see who really is more appropriate to have this item from our parents, who we love so much, did a fantastic job with all of us, not just me, as a one-handed person. I mean, they treated us all equal. We couldn't have asked for better parents. So as we did the divide and conquer, I stumbled across something that I want to show that is certainly significant to me. And when I went into my mom and dad's bedroom, this item was hanging up around the mirror where my mom got ready every day, right in this necklace. And what this is an ABC, American Bowling Congress 300 ring. And the date on this, and it is significant, it's 8/6 of 1986. And like I said, my mom passed away August 5th of 2016. So 30 years and 1 day later, she had passed away. But the reason why this was hanging up where she had it was because she meant so much to me that my first 300 that I bowled, the first ring that I earned, went to her. And I hadn't seen it in years. So when I stumbled across it, I was taken aback. Oh, there's where she had it. Someplace where she looked at every day. And it's just so cool to think that it meant that much to her. It certainly meant that much to me, giving it to her. But I'm very glad I have this now. But I've had this now a few years, because I did stumble across that. Now, my parents during that time too, towards later on in their life, they decided to start giving us things as well. Here's something for you. Here's some old pictures of you. Here's your first grade yearbook, whatever it is. So I want to share with you a prosthetic, and that's what the show and tell is going to be. We're going to look at some older prosthetics because I'm an older person. But I'm going to go down memory lane with you. And maybe, I shouldn't even say maybe, I'm going to, on YouTube, also show you pictures of me using this prosthetic, or at least wearing these prosthetics that I have. The first one that my parents gave me a long time ago is this mitt. They probably gave this to me 10, 15 years ago. Michael, we found this while we were doing some cleanup, and they couldn't do anything with it, so they wanted to make sure I had it. So let me tell you some stories about this. You can tell that it has a socket right here. The socket is basically right in this area here, and this is rubberized, and it's not as rubberized. It's stiffened up over the years. But really, this was designed for, as my parents tell it, and it makes complete sense. This was meant to get me as an infant used to wearing something as I got older. A little older, as it turns out, but making sure that I understood the difference in length. So I wasn't sticking my arm, once I was going to start wearing a hook, I wasn't sticking it into my eye. So definitely get used to the length, but also it's rubberized, so I was able to teeth on it. So I bit it quite a bit, but this is an antique. I honestly have not done any research. If you know anything about these, if you're a prosthetist and you still give patients and congenital limb loss people like me, you still use this, I'd like to hear that. I don't know the story behind that, but this means so much to me to still have this. But the next thing I'm going to show means maybe a little bit more to me, because this was a shock to me when I found this. And at the time of this taping, I found this a week before I taped this. And I didn't even know this was still in the family. I got a bunch of boxes out of stores, because once we divided and conquered and had all of this stuff, basically, what are we going to do with it? Well, this is for you, Michael. This is for you, Mark. This is for you, Anita. Some of the stuff we can go through, some of it was just overwhelming. So last Friday, in an effort to get rid of some of the storage and what's in the storage facility, I opened up a box and I stumbled across this. This is the first prosthetic I ever wore. I mean, it can fit in the entire shot here. It's amazing. I mean, look at the socket, Look at the craftsmanship. It's maybe a little brittle in some ways, but it still works. And as you can tell, I hope, this is rubberized. So this is, again, in an effort to make sure that I didn't hurt myself while I was doing this. But again, the thought between these two was make sure me, the patient, Mike Boland in this case, make sure that he understands the difference in length from what he was born with to what we're attempting to put on his arm. I honestly could not believe we had this. And the thing that really resonates with me, I'm going to show a picture of this, and I'm going to show it on camera, but I'm also going to I'm going to take a picture of it, make sure it's part of the video so everyone can see it a little better, because, hey, it's blocking my face now. But basically, this is me wearing the hook. And I'll read the caption. I'm going to have to put on my glasses here to read what the caption to this particular newspaper article. This was in the newspaper. This was in the Newark Sunday News in 1967, January 1967. So I was not even 2 years old at this point, being able to control and wear a hook. And my mom always said that they told her I was the youngest person to ever be able to control a prosthetic hook like this. It's hard to tell. Who knows? I couldn't tell you whether that's true or not. I don't know if there's records of those things, but certainly one of the youngest, I would imagine. But let me read you the caption here. At Kessler Institute in West Orange, New Jersey, disabled youngsters have adopted hand puppets fashioned by members of the 200 Club of Upper Montclair as a new form of therapy with happy results. In this photo above, 3-year-old Mike Boland of Hazlitt, I was not even 2 years old, but 3-year-old Mike Boland of Hazlitt, New Jersey. Shout out to Hazlitt, New Jersey, Beer Street School, Tiny Glens. Well, that's it. All my friends there from Hazlitt, you know what I'm talking about. Mike Boland of Hazlitt is pleasantly bemused by the antics of Timothy Deacon of Emerson, a fellow patient, and Mrs. Charles Swenson of Glen Ridge, a representative of the 200 Club, which has adopted the Kessler Children's Services as a current benefit project. So it's so cool to have both of these things after all these years. The original newspaper article, and of course, the hook I wore in that. But more importantly to me is just having this. I don't know if all people in this community have an affection, or I'll even say it, a hatred for their first prosthetic. In my life and in my journey, having this, it cannot be replaced. So having this means so much to me, and I'm so glad that I eventually found it. But another thing that I eventually found, which it was in the same box, was this little handy item. This was one of the first prosthetic hands, or the artificial hand, meant to look like a regular hand, that we, at the time in Arizona, and maybe when we moved to Arizona, we had to find a new organization to make my prosthetics. And at the time, it was called Arizona Crippled Children. And that's where we went. And that's where the tie-in to the trial of Billy Jack is there, too. The story is this. Tom Laughlin, Billy Jack, when he was looking for people to play certain roles in the trial of Billy Jack, reached out to Arizona Crippled Children and said, I am looking for a boy with one hand, approximately 5 to 10 years old. Do you have any? And we had just moved from New Jersey. I mean, we moved from New Jersey in, December of 1972. We were filming in spring, summer of 73. So we're talking like as soon as we get to New Jersey, as soon as we find a new prosthetist, I was cast in a role as Danny in the trial of Billy Jack. It's kind of weird. I wish my parents were around nowadays to ask what that timeline was like. I really don't know exactly, but I can't be far off. I mean, that's what I just told you as far as the timeline is exactly what I know, and it's truthful. I would just like to be able to fill in the holes and get their perspective. But this was funny because, and I'm going to show a picture. Again, I urge everyone that may be listening, I hope you're enjoying listening to it, but I'd love it if you can go on my YouTube channel and actually see this, because again, I'll describe this as best I can. It's an artificial hand. I think I beat it up a little bit because I know for a fact that this, I remember this, my pinky, as I explained, the pinky finger and the next to the pinky finger, those two fingers are rubber, and they just move. And as I show this, you can see that the pinky's way out. It's like deformed. I remember that when I was a kid. So this was something that I did, probably beating it up as any 11-year-old would, because this is about what I'm relatively certain I was 11 years old when I wore this. So, or attempted to wear it. I didn't wear it a lot. I do remember that. But the way this works, and I'm sure there's others that know this, on the inside of it's not really much of a socket, but the inside of this rubberized area, I'm doing not a very good job of trying to, yeah, there we go. You can see there's a cable, and there's also a screw. And basically, and I'm going to pull up the very last prosthetic that I wore, and I wore this in up until sometime in 8th grade when the cable broke, because I was doing a little bit of roughhousing. But basically the way that artificial hand worked is you would unscrew your hook here, the top part, ETD I believe they're called. Please correct me if I'm wrong on any of these. I don't currently wear a prosthetic, and I'm not meaning to disrespect anyone. But anyway, you'd unscrew the hook part, and then this would go over this. This hand part would go over the socket. I might as well, again, try to explain as well as I can. And then it would screw on. And then you'd be able to open it. And I can't show you how it opens because I have one hand, right? I mean, it's the truth. I can't hold this and pull the cord. I can try it at the same time. Well, you know what? Let me give it a shot. Oh, there we go. I don't know if you can see that. Let me put this down. So it's spring-loaded. It's not a rubber band like most of the hooks are. That's about all I can do. But that's how this worked. But same motion, same shoulder motion that if you're missing one hand, and that's the shoulder motion for you to control a prosthetic. So those were pretty interesting on a prosthetic. But one of the other things that was tucked away, like I think a 3rd grade project. I was 12 years old, 11 or 12 years old when I did this. They did the old hand imprints, kind of cool. But what I got to do, which others couldn't do, not only did I have my left hand in here, you know what? I threw the right in there too. I threw my stump in there too. And just for good measure, I don't know why. This is how much I've liked having one hand. I'm very comfortable in my own skin. I like it. I wouldn't want to be any other way. And I get it. We're all on different journeys. I would never judge anyone for not having the same attitude that I do, being a amputee, congenital amputee, however you want to say it, congenital limb loss. But what I did was I made sure I put an R for right and an L for left, just in case. Just in case. Maybe somebody that didn't know that. Somebody looking at me didn't know, that's your right hand that's missing, right, Mike? Oh, yeah, I got it in a plaster of Paris mold. So, yes, it's definitely the right hand. So I thought both of those, or all of those, were very interesting. But again, having that attitude even when you're a little younger, it's always been my attitude. And I will say this to anyone that has a listen, and I probably said it on this podcast before, the reason why I have the attitude I have is because of the people in my life, as an example, that saved this. Mm-hmm. They were such great leaders to me. My brother and sister were always fantastic to me. No one looked at me any different. And it extends to extended family, now that my family is even extended, and friends. The support group is very important, and I would urge everyone that may not have a good support group to try to find it. Try to get those positive people in your life. You can join our Facebook group, the We're Not Stumped podcast group. Again, it's a Facebook group, and I created it as a way where people can get together and talk. Matter of fact, if you join, you'll get more information on this. Tuesday nights at 4 o'clock Arizona time, we have a call with as many people as want to show up. It's every Tuesday. Doesn't mean people have to show up every Tuesday. I have even missed one. But we get together and we just talk. Sometimes we talk about life. Sometimes we talk about prosthetics. Sometimes we talk about insurance. Sometimes we talk about the good things in life. Sometimes we talk about the struggles we have. It's meant to be a support group. So, again, get those special people in your life that I was blessed and lucky enough to have from the beginning. And if you need some of those great people, I can tell you, I get to talk to them on Tuesday nights. Please join our group. We'd love to have you. Okay, so now for you Billy Jack aficionados, I said it before and I'll say it again. Thank you so much for your kindness, because matter of fact, as I tape this podcast, I just had someone yesterday reach out to me on Facebook on the official Billy Jack page and said, "Hey, you're a really good actor." It's like, no, I wasn't. I was just a kid. I had never done anything like that, but I had a good time. And I got to give a shout out to all of the Laughlins. I mean, that whole family was fantastic to me. Billy Jack, Tom Laughlin was great. TC, who I shared every one of my scenes. It hasn't been that long. It's been maybe a year or two since I communicated with her. She's just a fantastic person. The Laughlins were always good to me, and I just want that to get out there, because I've read things as you get older. You start reading things, and hey, Tom Laughlin was hard to get along with. No, he wasn't. No, that wasn't. I can only tell you from personal experience. No, it wasn't. He was a cool dude. And I have some of my, on my official page here, I also have some of the scenes that I shot in that movie. So, speaking of shot, I'm going to get to that in a second, because anybody that's seen the movie knows how it ends, at least ends for me. But what I want to show you first, for you Billy Jack fans out there, here is the official script to The Trial of Billy Jack. The official script. There it is. I don't know if So again, this was something that my parents kept. They had given it to me a while ago. So I maybe 15 years ago. Hey, Michael, we got something that we think you'd enjoy. Take a look at it. Of course I did. Of course I enjoy it. I mean, I even have the original business card. I should have pulled it out. But the original business card that Tom Laughlin gave my mom, Billy Jack Productions, after we met for the first time. And I think we met at the Crippled Children facilities. And Mr. Laughlin was very impressed with my mom. I think my dad was working during the time when we did our interview, and I'm sure it's because of my mom that I got the part that I struggled through, although people are very kind. And again, thank you to everyone that's very kind to me. I had to lean over for this one, so sorry for the top of the headshot. But again, using the word shot, I've done it a couple times. For those of you, this should not be a spoiler after a lot of years since that movie came out. My character of Danny met a tragic end. Let's put it that way. William Wellman Jr. was the actor who did away with me, let's say. I was shot and killed at the end of the movie. My character was. Which pretty much shot and killed any chance for me to be in another movie. And I had somebody ask, same thing yesterday when they said, "Oh, you're such a good actor." They responded and said, they asked, "Were you ever in any other movies?" I said, "Nope, that was a one and done for me." And they're like, "Oh, that's kind of surprising. You're such a good actor." Well, I don't know about that, number one. And number two, one-handed actors are not in demand. I'll tell you, not since Kingpin, right? And I was a pro bowler. Why did they get Woody Harrelson to play that? Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. I'm a pro bowler. I'm an actor. I got one hand. And they don't hire me. They hire Woody Harrelson, right? Yeah, okay. Well, whatever, Woody. Just because... If he could pull off having one hand better than me, that's great. He's obviously a better actor. But if he thinks he can bowl better than me, now I have a problem. So going back to the scene where I get shot, here are the clothes that I wore, and I'll superimpose some of that shot scene over this. And look at my stump can go right through where the blood packet was. That's where the blood packet was. But this was the shirt I wore in the trial of Billy Jack when my character met its demise, and these were the pants that I wore. And you can tell all the fake blood on these pants. So, for you Billy Jack fans, I hope you enjoyed that. I got other things to share from that time. They're great people. Had a great time making that movie. And I'd do it again if I could. If there was only any other one-handed part, if there's something else with one hand, I could, like maybe a movie about a great juggler. Okay, I wouldn't be qualified for that, but still, you get the idea. Anyway, that's it for the 40th episode of the We're Not Stumped podcast. Again, thank you to everyone who's ever been on this podcast. Thank you to everyone who's ever listened to it. And if you have listened to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform, I urge you to go to the Mike Boland, the official Mike Boland, MikeBolland. Go to my YouTube channel, because you have to see, if nothing else, this hook that I have in my hand. It's just the coolest little guy ever. I mean, you have to see this. You Billy Jack fans, you probably should go on and check out the script that I have, because it's cool. I mean, these are products of a life well lived, and a life well lived with limb loss. I got some old things from when I used to be a pro bowler and stuff like that. Those are fun too, but this means a lot to me, especially because of the connection it brings back to the people that made this great life happen for me. And that's my mom and dad. So thank you for listening. And I urge everyone that would like to be on the We're Not Stumped podcast to get a hold of me. I'm looking for guests all the time. I'd love to have you. And if you're interested in getting on the Facebook page, join. I'll let you on. It's a private group, because what we're trying to do is have real discussions. But if you're part of this community, we want you on there. And again, thank you to all the people that have ever been on the podcast. You've inspired me. Your stories mean a lot to me. And I can tell you from the feedback I get from the overall podcast that you've helped a lot of people. So thank you, and have a great day.
That was the We're Not Stumped podcast, hosted by Mike Boland. If you want to be a guest on the program, reach out to Mike at his email address, mike@mikeboland.com. This podcast is produced by One Hand Man Productions. If you are looking to start your podcast, go to onehandmanproductions.com.